The Salian Franks were an ancient tribe that settled here in the Low Countries in the 3rd century after fleeing the Saxons, and they either went on to rule over or merge with the local people, the Batavi. However, from the 16th century onwards, the Dutch latched onto the idea that the Batavi were their founders. For instance, Jakarta in Indonesia was once called Batavia, and there was also the short-lived Batavian Republic during the Napoleonic Wars. But the Salian Franks were an incredibly influential group and shouldn't be ignored. Well, their laws were very important because around 500 AD, King Clovis had united most of the Franks under his rule and decided to put down the ancient Salic laws on paper. And this is probably the oldest record of Old Dutch in existence, but more than that, it sort of shaped the European legal system for centuries to come. Now, one of the most important laws that they created was concerning inheritance, because they said that no portion of Salic land should be inherited by a woman. So this essentially barred royal women from inheriting the throne, and this would go on to help cause the 100 Years' War, the Austrian War of Succession, and the Carlist Wars, amongst many others. But they also had many interesting laws. For instance, if you wanted to move to a village, but one person in the village objected to it, you could not move there. And if you decided to move there anyway, you would be warned, and then after 30 days, you'd be evicted. But if we just stick with women, there are many more interesting laws that they had. For instance, if you called a woman a harlot but could not prove that she was one, you were fined 1,800 dinars, which was the most expensive fee any insult would warrant. For instance, it was 3 times more than if you accused somebody of being a spy, and 15 times more than if you called somebody a fox or a hare, which I suppose were insults back then. And also, women were more valued back then, quite literally. Now, this is because if you killed a free man, you were expected to pay 8,000 dinars. But there's a lot of ifs, buts and maybes, I should say. For instance, if you try to hide the body, you would have to pay 3 times as much, and you would have to pay more if the man was in the service of the king. And you also paid less if you accidentally killed a man. For instance, if you hit him in the stomach so hard that his entrails are revealed, that's 1,200 dinars. And it's also 1,200 dinars if you hit a man on the head so hard that his brains appear. But these are mentioned under injuries, however, I'm not too sure how people would survive them. However, going back to women, if you killed a woman, it would cost you 24,000 dinars, that's 3 times as much as a man. However, it only applied to women who could have children. Pregnant women cost a little bit more, but if a woman was so old that she couldn't have children, or just couldn't have children, the price, well, the cost dropped to about 8,000 dinar, the same as a man. So they weren't the biggest feminists out there and clearly thought that women had a very specific role. But as always is the case, rape was illegal and cost 2,500 dinars. But if you were in the service of the king and raped somebody, the punishment would be death.